Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome back to the Glass City at the library. We're super glad to be back here, and the word has it that the lunch today is fantastic, so I hope you're enjoying it. If everyone would pull out their phone and make sure that their ringer is turned down, and as I mentioned previously, we're trying to get the word out there a little bit more in social media. So if you just turn your ringer down, not turn your phone off, and as you hear Vince say all the great things that he's going to say today about SSOE, you might take a picture, take a quick video and share it on LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever you use. So let's try to get the word out. Alec Falkenberg, if you could join us here at the mic for the invocation, and if Gary Johnson will come up as well, as he's going to lead us in the Star Spangled Banner today.
Glad I missed out on singing.
Yeah, next time.
Father, as we gather together today, we give you thanks for another day, the opportunity to grow and to serve our community. We ask that our meeting today bear fruit, that we may connect with one another, make new relationships, and gain wisdom on how to best represent our motto, service above self. We ask that you bless our speaker today, Mr. Vincent DiPofi. May he deliver a strong message for all to hear and understand, that we may learn more and gain insight and wisdom. As we depart today, and go back to our workplaces and personal communities, allow our light to shine for all around us to present a path for a better future. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I was asked to lead us off in song. This is going to be the first one, but I'm not doing this alone. We're all doing this together, so. Okay. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave.
Thank you very much, Alec, and outstanding job there, Gary. We are still looking for a monthly meeting sponsor for August. So if any of you are interested, please reach out to Jackie and she can give you the details on that. If there are any guests in the room, which I know there are, if you could bring them up to the floor mic and introduce them, that would be great.
President Cindy, I want to introduce for our second visit, Brad Mish from Dunbar Mechanical.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. I'm new to Rotary, and today I'm bringing guest Matt Kretzer. He's our controller.
Good afternoon, everyone. Pastor Cedric Brock is here for his second time from Mount Nebo Baptist Church and Toledo Public Schools.
President Cindy, my fellow Rotarians, excited to welcome as a guest today from the Toledo Ernst & Young office, Jamie Messer.
Good afternoon. I'd like to introduce my husband, Brian Collin. He is new to Rotary, first time here, and starting a new business, Inspired Lumber Workshop.
Boy, this is tall. I'd like to introduce my guest and potential new member, Yolanda Durden, who is the Alumni Engagement Coordinator at St. Ursula Academy, the first and finest girls' school in the...
My guest today is Emma Van Winkle with the Reichel Klein Group and a proud graduate of Notre Dame Academy.
The good thing is Toledo is we're blessed with lots of good high schools, so I'm not going to mention any today. But Matt Scheiber is here with me today. Matt is in our office as our workforce manager and a guest at Rotary today.
Well, it's fantastic to have all of you here today. Past President Chuck Stocking, if you, oops, I'm on the wrong page, sorry. Woo, jumping way ahead. At this time, I'd like to ask Roy Cherry to come up to the podium to give us an update on working better together.
Thank you, President Cindy, and good afternoon, Rotarians. I was asked to come up here and give an update on our Working Better Together initiative. For those of you that may not be familiar with that, otherwise known as WBT, it is an initiative that was put together through the Disability Services Committee, which I do chair, and it involves the Ability Center, the Epilepsy Center, Goodwill Industries, and Lot Industries in efforts to bring candidates up in front of in the Rotary meetings here, in hopes to have some people with disabilities get employment and jobs. So I do have a few updates on the last few candidates that had come through the last few months. Tim Menke from Lot had brought a person that he knows, Donald, and he did get a job at a landscaping company for a short amount of time, and was not through the Toledo, any of the Rotarians, but it really empowered him to really pursue that job. So that was great. Lisa from the Ability Center introduced Taylor, and she had an interview just recently with Glass City Center, and apparently that went really well. And so her experience of coming here and being part of the WBT also has really gave her some newfound confidence, and really she's excited to start her career. And if you recall, I was here a couple months ago and I introduced Braxton, who has epilepsy, and he was looking for some employment. And thanks to Tony from Bitwise, he got hooked up with him, and he had already completed his 6-week course, the first course. He's looking to do the second course, and he has been doing great. Been shining in these courses, and really is in line for a paid apprenticeship, hopefully shortly. So that one's really excited. We're really happy for that. So I know that we're going to continue to bring candidates up here, usually the first Monday meeting of the month. So just be on the lookout for that. And if you have any employment needs that we could fulfill, we'd be happy to do so. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. That was a lot of good information, and it's really exciting to see that the people that are coming forward here are finding opportunities. And thank you, Tony, for that. And right now, I'd like to honor any of the Rotarians that have been members for 6 months. And if you're in the room, please come up to the front. Brian Reed, Carol Sobzak, Tony Washington, and Laura Kaprowski. Oh, I'm just going to walk up for a second. I just want to shake your hands. So glad to say we're going to start doing the little ceremony that we used to do. These guys don't have any ribbons on or anything, but some of the newer members do. So we're going to start in with the removing the ribbon or the sticker off your name tag. So I just wanted to shake these guys' hands, welcome them, and let them know that they're getting really involved in our Rotary Club, which is great. Outstanding members here. So let's give them a round of applause. Good to see you guys. And at this time, what you all are here for, I'm going to have Bob Harold come up and introduce our speaker for today.
It's an honor and a pleasure to introduce Vince DiPofi, Chief Executive Officer of SSOE Group. SSOE is an internationally ranked architecture and engineering firm headquartered in Toledo for nearly 75 years. As CEO, Vince is responsible for ensuring the firm realizes its vision of designing and building the future for their clients, colleagues, and communities. A native Toledoan, Vince made the choice to continue his career in the Glass City following his graduation from the University of Toledo with a degree in mechanical engineering. Beginning as an intern, Vince learned drafting and design on the board and rose through the ranks until he found his niche in business strategy. Toledo served as his home base while he traveled the globe, gaining significant international experience. His tenure with SSOE exceeds 20 years. When he first started, there were 3 offices that comprised the firm. Today, the firm boasts 17 U.S. locations, along with offices in Mexico and India, with projects spanning 40 countries and revenue that has grown by over 300%. Last year, the firm announced its acquisition of the 100-year-old Atlanta-based design firm Stevens and Wilkinson's, a major player in architecture. Just last month, SSOE established an office in Austin, Texas, where business is booming, especially in semiconductor facility design, a market sector for which SSOE is a national leader, named number 2 by Engineering News Record for the past 3 years. Under Vince's leadership, SSOE is well positioned to achieve its mission to deliver unparalleled client value. While his day job at SSOE keeps him busy, Vince is actively involved with several Toledo area organizations. He currently serves as director for Connect Toledo, is a board member for the United Way of Greater Toledo, is incoming chair of the board for the American Heart Association of Northwest Ohio, and has a long-standing history with the Toledo Society of Professional Engineers. He was named Young Engineer of the Year in 1991, in true full circle fashion, named Engineer of the Year earlier this year. Please join me in welcoming SSOE CEO Vince DiPofi.
Make sure I stay on time. Bob, thanks for that sterling introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here at the Rotary Club. I've actually never been to a Rotary Club meeting. I've already had several requests to join just during lunch, so we'll look at that. But I researched your organization. Wow, I love the motto, service before self. I didn't realize you guys have been around over 100 years. And one of the top 20 Rotary clubs in the country. Wow, fantastic. Congratulations on that. Right across the street from me, you're meeting every day or every week. So I really loved your transformational projects. The universal pre-K, I think, is a dynamic way that we need to continue to build our communities. Your $100,000 commitment to that is really outstanding. I also saw the 50,000 meals in the kids for the Coalition Against Hunger. Some great things that this club does. So really a great club, and I commend you on everything you're doing in the Toledo community to make it a better community. turn on my remote here. So there's three things I wanted to talk about today. One, I wanted to introduce you to our company in case you don't know us, and if you know us, reintroduce you, because there's a lot that has happened with our company that I think is important, and that'll set the stage for talking about electric vehicles, what's happening with batteries. There's so much, there's a lot of dynamics there. Love to share with you not only what I see in the market, but how SSOE is working in that market. And then finally, talk about what's that impact on Toledo, both how does that industry affect Toledo, but also how does SSOE's role in that industry have positive impacts on the city. So first, Bob mentioned our vision, designing and building the future for our clients, colleagues, and communities. And that is something that we take passionately. You'll see that we really touch on our communities. Obviously, you'll see a lot with our clients as we talk today, and of course, the people that we have. I heard someone say that you have candidates for hire. If you have any engineers at all, I'm in the market. So please forward their resumes to me. I'll be glad to hire them. And our mission, as Bob also said, is delivering unparalleled client value that advances the AEC industry. We spent a lot of time when I became CEO, we wanted to be more than just about the company. And there were two words in there that maybe I'll just talk about our company, unparalleled. We chose unparalleled because that's something you can never really reach. I mean, you never really have unparalleled. Someone's always catching you, someone's always trying to do better. So it was to push ourselves to do always better, but also we want to help drive the whole industry, the architectural, the engineering, and construction industry. We want to drive that. We've got a lot of technology, and some of the work that we're doing on these projects, you'll see, we really feel will be a driver in that. So some facts Bob gave you a few facts about us, but we have 1,200 people across 19 offices in 3 countries. Currently, we're about $200 million in annual revenue, to kind of give you a sense for the size of the company. We're ranked in the top 10 in 4 different industries. I'll talk about those specifically and how that really played into us being a strong presence in the battery and EV market. And the thing that we're most proud of is we have 150 clients that have been with us for over 20 years. And we're really proud of that. When people always say we're investing in long-term relationships, we truly are. We think it's really important to the longevity of the business. There's a sense where our office locations are. Now, I've got the red dots, just to give you a sense of how SSOE has grown over the year. The red dots are where we've organically grown. We've gone in, opened an office, expanded it. So you can see Bob mentioned Austin, Texas is our most recent office that we opened up because of the semiconductor industry and advanced technology there. But you can see primarily in the Southeast and the West Coast, we've grown by acquisition. And that has been really critical to not only the growth of the company, but our ability to have that presence in the battery and EV market. You can also see we've got an office in Mexico. Mexico is actually our company's 3rd largest office, approaching 100 people. It's our fastest growing office over the last 3 years, and then we have an office in Mumbai, India as well. So what does SSOE specialize in? So these are top 5 rankings, but when you put this in the context that SSOE as an engineering firm isn't even in the top 100, you can see that we have a really strong focus in the manufacturing, the industrial sectors. And if I go from the bottom to the top, you can see we're top 10 in food and beverage, top 5 in manufacturing and design. But the other 2 top 5, advanced technology, or I should say automotive, is we've been a major player in automotive. That's really what the company was founded on. Bob worked in that industry as well. And it's really been, Midwest roots, but we're also top 5, and actually for the past 9 years, we're number 2 in the country in design of semiconductor firms. And when you look at the electric vehicles, you look at the batteries, the crossover of those crosses both the automotive and the semiconductor industry. So those, I'll say, the semiconductor was a result of an acquisition. The automotive is homegrown. And so kind of the mix of homegrown experience in designing automotive facilities with acquired services and technology in the semiconductor industry really, and you say sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And I gave one of our former CEOs, actually two former CEOs, Bob Howell and Tony Damon, a call when there was a big factory announced in Columbus, and I said, hey, that acquisition you guys made, put that in your list of great things you did under your watch. So as I've always said, the success of any company is always built on the predecessors, and our job is to try and continue that. So, global company, local roots. Bob mentioned today actually is August 8th is our company's birthday, so we're kicking off in 23 we'll be 75 years old. So we're kicking off a year-long celebration of our 75th anniversary. All 75 of those years have been right here in Toledo, so we're extremely proud of that. And with that, of the 19 or 1,200 employees that we have, 350 are right here across the street at 10th and Madison. So we're very proud of our Toledo heritage. Even though we're a global company, Toledo is still our largest office. And our commitment to the community. This is a big part of our vision, and it was just timing. I don't know if you saw this article. It was in yesterday's paper in the Toledo Magazine. I see my partner here at the office, Wendy Peastrue from the United Way. We just finished a mural with a young artist. It was featured in the paper yesterday. It's really been an excellent project. Wendy's brought a great perspective. If you don't know it, the United Way is actually in our building. We lease part of our building space to the United Way, and it's been a great addition and part of our commitment to the community. I also wanted to make a call out to the University of Toledo, where we have over 130 University of Toledo graduates, most of those in engineering, and some of those are not just in Toledo, but they transfer their spread up. Whoops. I'm Italian, I talk with my hands a lot, so that probably won't be the last time I hit the mic with my hands. And so we're very proud of our partnership with the university. Coming up here, I won't give it away so I don't take away the press, but we're about to make a major commitment to the university here coming up in the College of Engineering. And I know that Mr. Joe Sweeney would be disappointed if I didn't mention I was a St. Francis graduate. I know Father O is not here today, but I've met at least, I think, 4 different St. Francis graduates here. So go Knights, Joe. There you go. Checks in the mail. So let's talk about an electric future, as I call it. Let's talk about what is going on with electric vehicles. And I want to talk about maybe about the industry as a whole, and hopefully not bore you, but I think some facts and figures are important here. You can see the rise in the projection in annual vehicle sales in the millions. So as you can see, this is Bloomberg's projections here. Sales are expected to reach by 2040, 56 million passenger EVs. Interesting, only 17% of those will be in the United States. So we hear a lot about it in the US, but there's really a lot going on globally with that market. And we've got some other figures to show you that China is really a leader in that market. But it's really important, I think, for our company certainly, but if we all embrace that, I mean, that is going to be the wave of the future. Electric vehicles, and I'll show you some numbers on investment, but you've seen people like General Motors and Ford and the announcements they've made in investments in this. So this is a long-term play. There's an incredible amount of investment happening really across the globe in this industry. So as you can see, the growth there, the top blue is the U.S. projection of the total share. You can see that China has the largest share, and of course Europe probably pretty similar to the U.S. So there is a continued demand for electric vehicles. Some more facts and figures, the lithium-ion battery demand forecast. So the market, again, Bloomberg projects the market to be over $68 billion by the year 28, $68 billion of lithium batteries. So, I mean, along with the electric vehicles, that is going to also drive the need for batteries. Obviously, those two go hand in hand. And obviously, with semiconductor chips being a big part of that, they're all flowing together. So again, you can see the passenger EVs, while not having a big percentage of it now, that is going to be the largest percentage of the need for the batteries in the future. So your eyes are not playing your tricks on you. That graph is actually changing. So it's a live graph that's just kind of showing you where the U.S. stands in global capacity today and where that looks like it's going to be in 2025. So you can see right now the U.S. is a smaller portion of that, but in the coming years, 2030, we are going to have a larger portion of that. So again, it's an area that the U.S. really stands a lot to gain in. There's a lot of investment there. It's a great opportunity for the U.S. and really an industrial part of the Midwest where we are. It's a great opportunity for us as well. So a lot happening in there, a lot of growth and investment. So maybe talk a little bit just about the battery cycle itself. And the reason I bring this up is, this is pretty basic, I think you'll understand, but also how did that play a role in what SSOE is doing in that I wanted to talk about. So you have raw materials and supply. Lithium, of course, is very much in demand right now. You get into the manufacturing, of course, and you sell the battery use. Collection and recycle. I think you probably are. What are we going to do with all these batteries when they're done? So battery recycling is actually something that's happening. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And so that is going to be an important thing, is that we're able to recycle and reuse those batteries. So when our work that we're currently engaged in key phases. We're in battery materials production, we're in the cell production itself, and we're actually involved in recycling of batteries as well. So we're hitting a number of phases along that life cycle of batteries. And this is where I talked about some of our different industries coming together. So we have experience in automotive. Of course, if you're familiar with batteries, there's a lot of chemical engineering involved with the design of a battery and the operation of it, and our advanced technology markers. So when you pull all those together, it really gives us a unique position in the market and a unique perspective on the design and the building of those manufacturing facilities. So if you take a look again at that life cycle, this is where our advanced technology group and the raw materials, collection of that, and then the recycling of it. So I mentioned our acquisition that we made in the West Coast. They're heavily involved in that. They've been driving a lot on the front end of that. But then we combine that with our automotive facilities team, and our process groups have been involved in the manufacture. So our automotive team is really world-renowned for designing the facility, and our process team works on actually the battery's process design itself with that. So when we merge our groups in advanced technology, process design, and designing manufacturing facilities, it really gives our company a unique opportunity to participate in the key parts of that battery life cycle. So it's a really exciting time for us to be a part of that. And I'll show you in a little bit, there's just an amazing amount of projects out there right now and investment going on. So let's talk a little bit about electric vehicles. That's a big number, and it's probably very dynamic. It probably changes by the month, but that's globally, the OEM investment over the next 5 to 10 years is $515 billion. It's just an amazing amount of money that's going in there. I don't want to say become funny, but any project we're working on, it's always $1 billion investment. It's just the amount of money that's going into building these plants is just phenomenal out there right now, and it's coming from a lot of different areas. You have some of the traditional areas, say, such as your GMs and Fords and Teslas that are investing. But you also got a lot of small startups in here, and we're working with one of them. I'll talk a little bit about that. So some of the startups are trying to get into the technology, especially around the storage of power and batteries is really important. So the automotive clients that we work with, and I'll show you a snapshot of that here shortly, covers more than 50% of the cars sold in the world, including the electric vehicle manufacturers. So if you look at the companies that we work with, you can see those there. Names I'm sure that you're all familiar with, some that are local here. So we work with all of these automotive manufacturers anytime have projects ongoing. And I thought I'd give a little insight on some of the projects that are happening out there right now. Some of the projects we can't talk about due to confidentiality, but these have been approved for us. They've been public and approved for us, and I thought I'd give you insight just on the different types and a range of the projects, but also the size and what they're focused on. So overall right now, we are engaged in over 20 electric vehicle and battery manufacturing projects across 18 facilities in the U.S. and Mexico. And that list keeps growing. I mean, every week, new opportunities come in. It's really a phenomenal amount of opportunities that are out there. And as you can see, it's all over the country. It's in Mexico as well. So as you saw that that positioning of those projects matches very well with where our offices and our resources are located. And so it's just, I'll say it, I've been in the business, I hate to say this, since 1981, and I've never seen the backlog of projects and opportunities that are out there right now. I'm sure some of you have seen the same thing in your businesses as well. So Core Power, this is out in Arizona. This is a battery cell production facility. Probably a name you haven't heard of. It's not out there, but 1 million square feet. They're going to produce 60 million annual battery cells. And you'll see this with a lot of these companies. Net zero carbon emissions is a real goal with these companies when they're building the facility and when they're looking at the long-term operation of the facility. So it's going to support 12 gigawatts of cell production. It's got clean rooms, dry rooms. I don't want to get overly technical on it, but we're proud of this one because this was the first battery project that we won. And it's one of these things where nobody has a lot of battery experience right now because these plants just came into existence. But I think we lost 3 or 4 before we finally got the hang of it and won this first one. And then it was, okay, now you've got a battery project on your resume that helps you get the next project. So we're pretty proud of that one. This one, again, you're all familiar with Ford. This is their Tennessee electric vehicle plant in Memphis. So it's a 36-acre campus located actually in Stanton, Tennessee, but it's a $5.6 billion investment. It's going to create 5,800 new jobs, going to start production in 2025. And it's going to do the F-Series pickup truck, the electric series, and advanced batteries there. And again, this plant is designed to be carbon neutral with zero waste to landfill once it's fully operational. So that is one of the, sustainability. I know you have a speech coming up next week about sustainability and electrification as well. And that is a big component, as I mentioned, with everybody that's designing these plants. They're really focused on zero net emissions. So it's everything is body shop, stamping, battery pack and assembly. And it's, again, one of the largest electric vehicle plants producing in the country. Nikola, you might have heard a little bit about this one. This is also in Arizona. This was one of our first EV projects. It's 800,000 square feet and a $600 million investment. Again, a goal of zero emissions. And so we're working with them. It'll have fuel cell electric vehicles, energy infrastructure solutions, and it'll have the capacity to produce Class 8 commercial semi-trucks. So again, just a variety of different projects out there, passenger vehicles, trucks, battery cell manufacturing, they're all overlapping and all integrated with each other really in terms of their growth path. And Toyota, a very long-term client of SSOE, 1.5 million square feet with nearly 1.3 billion in investment. This is going to be in North Carolina. Now, what's interesting about this, the phases of this plant could be up to 4 times as large as it is right now. So this is phase 1. It's going to be a mega site, and it'll start production in 2025. And it'll deliver lithium-ion batteries for 200,000 vehicles annually. And it'll create 1,750 new jobs in there. So again, as you can see, all of the different clients, whether they're Japanese, German, US, they're all investing in it. And like I said, there's a range of names that you know, but also names that you don't know, and people that are startups and getting into this business. So I think it'll be really interesting over the next 5 to 10 years. We've seen already there's some contenders and there's some pretenders. And that's usually measured by how strong their capital statement is and their ability to fund the project. We've seen some that have already run on tough times, and so you've got to be really careful right now with who's investing, how strong they are. And fortunately, we're in a situation where demand is stronger than supply, so we're able to select the ones that have a strong capital statement. And the last one here, Verity Parenti, is they're more of a technology company, and they're in Buffalo, New York. They are focused on storage technology. And of course, as you get, you think about commercial trucks or even the F-Series trucks, you need more power, you need more batteries. So over time, at some point, you're trying to reduce the battery size. So there's a lot of companies that are just looking at the technology itself and how do I make the batteries more efficient? How do we get more power out of the same batteries. There's a lot happening with that right now. So this actually, again, to give you kind of the range compared to projects we're doing with our, let's say, 1 million square feet, this is 70,000 square feet. So it's much smaller, but again, we're trying to tackle a lot of different parts of the supply chain, trying to be well-rounded. I'm not sure how all these things pan out, so we're trying not to limit ourselves in the areas that we focus on. And again, fortunately, we've got the depth of resources and the breadth of resources really to look at these different areas. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what are the future impacts of EV. And I was reading even just in the pages of opinion in the Blade yesterday, an argument over how do you determine are EV cheaper or not cheaper than gasoline-powered cars. So, there's almost 20 million passenger EVs on the road, and including commercial EVs, and that's only going to increase. So I thought I'd throw a couple figures and maybe ask a couple questions rhetorically here. 23% of the new passenger vehicles will be plug-ins by 2025. And as I mentioned, we're going to represent 15% of the market. In 2040, we'll have 750 million passenger EVs on the road. Potentially 2 out of every 3 cars sold is going to be an EV. So climate impact. This is something that's not controversial, right? There's never any controversy on climate change. Do they have a lesser impact on climate change than traditional gasoline cars? Well, probably, but a lot depends on where's the power being generated. If it's coal-generated power, it's going to be hard to say that it's cleaner to have an EV if you're coming in and plugging in, if you're wherever you're getting your electricity. But if you look at it on average, when you look at power plants across the country and you look at how much are powered by coal, natural gas, renewables, generally speaking, on average, it'll be a net reduction in greenhouse gas with electric vehicles versus gasoline-powered cars. Now, there's a lot of arguments on that. I'm sure somebody can find statistics. There's a lot of statistics out there right now on refuting it, but the best data that we've seen and looked at says that it will be a net reduction in greenhouse gases. The other controversy is, are they cheaper? Well, it depends, right? It always depends. So what's the cost of electricity where you're at? Supply and demand for EV. Right now, there's a huge crunch on demand, so prices are going up. Chips. How many cars are sitting in the lot because they don't have chips, or people are taking their cars that doesn't have a chip for the movable steering wheel, or things that maybe you don't need. So that's a big part of it. Government subsidies and tax credits are a big part of it, right? And that could depend what country you're in, right? Some countries offer bigger subsidies than the U.S., and I'm not proposing that we increase subsidies or taxes. I'm just stating the facts of what's going to affect whether it's a cheaper purchase. And just the global socioeconomic dynamics. If a war breaks out, say in Ukraine, and the price of oil goes up. All these things can have an impact on whether it's going to be cheaper or more expensive to have an EV car. And I think it's going to be years before all that settles out. It's going to be very dynamic. I don't know that there's a hard yes or no right now, but again, like I said, it depends where you live. The price of gas right now, maybe different a year from now, could have a real impact on that. So just some things to think about regarding that. What about the power demand? A lot of people feel like, hey, this is going to really be a drain on the power grid, and you can see that actually the grid as a whole has the capacity. They anticipate about a 4% increase to the power grid overall in the United States by 2050. But it's when you need it, right? Because just imagine on a hot August evening, everybody comes home, the air conditioning on, it's 90 degrees, and everybody plugs in their cars. So that's going to affect a lot when you need the power. So that's the bigger challenge, is everybody's going to want it at the same time, and what's the peak demand? And so but again, from a capacity standpoint, the grid appears it can absorb that. But what's also needed is upgrades. Most of our transmission and distribution lines were constructed in the 50s and 60s. Certainly, they've got a 50-year life expectancy, so certainly some upgrades there would help with the grid being more efficient. So again, there's a lot of things. There's a lot out there. I know plenty of people that feel like the grid can't support it, and it probably, again, depends where you're at. I think they're already say in California where they have a lot of electric vehicles, but also a lot of power challenges. They've already seen some brownouts as a result of that. So I think, again, it's going to be very dynamic for the next several years. And so, but the biggest challenge is, where do you plug in, right? That's where the real infrastructure is lacking right now. We need a six-fold increase in public charging stations. I know we put in a couple in our parking garage for our clients if they've got an electric vehicle to plug in, but it's not everywhere, right? And of course, we know how long it takes to charge a vehicle. So there's a lot of power challenges yet with the electric vehicles. Again, I know that over time, these tend to even out. The innovation will drive it, and it'll take less time. The batteries will hold more power, but certainly over the next 5 to 10 years is going to be a very dynamic situation. So I just wanted to talk, close out here. I'm running right up against my time here. I'm making sure a few minutes. Just wanted to talk not only the local impact of this, but SSOE. I talked a lot. Somebody asked me, Vince, are you going to talk about engineering or architecture? Just wanted to talk about our local impact. You can see all of the clients that we work with here. We've done a lot of work in downtown over the years. You can see these are all buildings that SSOE has worked in downtown and uptown over the years. So we've had over our 75 years, had a lot of impact locally here. We've got probably 30 to 40 projects happening right here in the city of Toledo right now that we're working on in Northwest Ohio. And I guess I'll just close out and talk a little bit about, what does this all mean for Toledo? So from an SSOE perspective, we have well over 200 people in our office that are engaged in these types of projects right now. And in the past year, we've hired 50 people. As I mentioned, I could probably hire another 50 people here. So in terms of, the local economy here, these are high-paying technical jobs, engineers, project managers and such that we hire, has had a great impact on our local business. We've had a lot of growth here. So, and not just us, I know Dana's speaking next week. It's had a big impact on them. So I think not just from our company standpoint, but just from a local standpoint, our background in automotive and industry and everything, I think has been really strong and really positions this area well to capitalize on that. I just met Tony this morning. And at another meeting, and we've already been talking about his team and how they might be able to support us, software development and things like that. So there's a lot of other industries and technology that kind of flow from this as part of it. So I think I'm at my time. I want to stop there and again, thank you for inviting me to speak here. Happy to take any questions if I can. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Vincent. It's really impressive to see how much impact a local Toledo company is having all across the country and the nation. Thank you. And if you have any questions, please come to the floor mic and we'll take as many as we can.
Okay.
Normally, when the power goes out, the only thing I care about is my gas generator goes on, and as long as I can get the fridge, the freezer, and the TV to work, I can handle everything else. I can get lights from anywhere. But with these electric vehicles, if you start having that situation, I guess I'll have to add that on, but I still have to use the gasoline generator in order to get everything to go, so there'll be some admissions, and I don't know if they plan on trying to do something about that type of a situation, or if hopefully the grids will improve themselves. But my question was, is there anybody looking at the possibility of offering hydrogen as another fuel source down the road as well as electricity?
I don't know. Is there anybody here from the University of Toledo? I know that UT is actually working and looking at that. In fact, I know one of our former employees is potentially, Dan Vining, if you don't know him, has been talking to the university, but that is being looked at. It's not getting the publicity, but I think in terms of alternate sources of power, hydrogen is something that is going to get some attention, especially with the challenges that we see with electrification too.
Love to be able to stick my garden hose in my gas.
I have a question, but a little bit of background first to kind of set the stage for the question. In the 90s, I was working at the Dana Corporation. Dana owned a leasing company, Dana Commercial Credit. We did leasing, asset management. We worked with all Dana's plants in North America. One of our big projects was their forklift fleets. And in most cases, we go out to their plants to convert them from LP fleets to electric. Now, back in 95 to 2000s when I was doing this, I built a model. I had a model that I could show them. Electric fuel was cheaper than LP based on kilowatt cost per hour and all those things. Maintenance cost of electric forklifts were cheaper than LP forklifts. Let's see here. Oh, emissions in the plants. The plants would measure the emissions pre-electric forklifts and after a conversion. So I'm just kind of curious, why has this been so slow since 2000 to get from there to, you know, I would have thought we'd have been farther down the road. What's been the biggest obstacles? Who's been, you know, maybe keeping this going slow? And if you look on Facebook, you even see little jokes. You see a car pulling up to a little place to get electric recharge with a big cord run to a coal burning plant, and you know, so it's kind of a little, a lot of opinions around this. Just out of curiosity, what have been and what are the biggest obstacles toward getting it more accepted?
Well, I don't want to say I'm an expert in that area because I'm always at the end where somebody's decided this is what we're building and I help them design it. But I suspect there's probably been a couple things at play. One is always the money, right? Can I get my return on the investment? And, you know, what are consumers going to buy? And I don't know if the technology was there, say, I mean, if you look at Tesla, who's been a real driver for that, I mean, they were out front, they were an innovator, and they made electric cars cool, right? I mean, you can't argue with that. Tesla's a cool car, and I think that was a motivator for a lot of other people to get there. I'm sure some of it does have to do with companies being more committed to climate change, sustainability. It's got to be a factor in it as well. I probably don't know the underlying factors that made it happen right now, but I know those are, over the years, contributing factors that I'm sure were part of it.
Hi, Laura Kaprowski with TARDA, and love this presentation. We have 2 electric vehicles coming early next year, and hopefully we'll also win a grant for 12 buses, electric buses. So my question is affordability. I mean, as a public entity, we struggle with the cost. I mean, oftentimes these buses are like twice the cost of a regular bus. And then I just think about the everyday person, and you know, you bring up Tesla. I mean, that's great for people at a certain income level, but you know, what do you see in terms of affordability for public entities, but just even the everyday person who might really benefit when gas prices spike and, you know, electric plug-in might be more affordable?
Well, I think you're going to see, like anything, when you first come out with something, it's like any other electronic equipment, phones, right? I mean, you can get now, I mean, when phones first came out, very few people. So you're going to have scale now with the larger OEMs investing in this and producing. You're going to get scale, which ultimately is going to reduce the price of the, you know, per car. And I think that's what's really missing on it, because you don't have enough out there to be able to, you know, leverage that across more vehicles. So I just think over time, it is going to go down. Like you see any cycle when a new product comes out, it's always more expensive at the beginning until it gets greater adoption and support services. And, you know, what does it cost to service it? What does it cost to replace a battery over time? All those things will be a factor in it. So I'm no way am I going to predict when that'll happen. I'm not qualified to say when everybody can afford an electric car, but there's a lot of them becoming more affordable out there. And I think you'll see that over time. And glad to see TARDA moving in that direction.
Thank you. It's always great to learn. I was reading an article about the batteries themselves and the fact that the lifespan today is something in the average of 7 years. But the cost itself is prohibitive in replacing them. And in Europe, they're simply putting the cars aside and waiting till the batteries are cheaper. How do we deal with that?
Yeah, well, that's what I mentioned. Verdi Palente is a company that's looking at, I mean, storage technology is really the key, right? Because you either being able to use the battery for more years or being able to store more power into a smaller battery. And again, it's one of those things, as you get more scale of investment coming in, I think you're going to see better efficiency out of the batteries. And we could probably take, you know, another hour just going into all the different technologies that are out there. Some of them I really can't talk about, but there is a lot being invested into the battery technology itself. And like I said, recycling is a big part of it too. I mean, the ability to reuse that. You're right. If I'm just going to sit the car aside, this doesn't seem like a net zero carbon emissions type approach. So It's going to be very dynamic, but I think over time, the R&D investment will find that. And again, it's things that I'm not really at liberty to talk about, but I know there's a lot of investment being made in technologies to address those issues.
Thank you.
Sorry I can't be specific on some of these things. Well, let's get it done.
Hi, that was a terrific presentation. Thank you. So nice to have a terrific firm like yours as part of our city.
Thank you.
I'm Greg Fess. I'm a retired attorney from the U.S. Department of Energy. But I'm a layman, and my question is, we see leaps and bounds that are made in EV technology. Barely a month goes by where we don't find an article about some improvement in that area. How does somebody that doesn't, is not an engineer, say, make a decision on when to buy an electric vehicle? I mean, is it this year or next year, or is it 5 years? I don't want, and I know the answer is it depends.
Well, you answered my question. I already took my answer away. No. This year, go out and buy one right now.
So I'm just asking, is your personal opinion, you don't have to represent your company or anything, just, what's your ideas on that?
Well, I'll just say myself, I'm personally about 2 years away.
Thank you.
Only because I'm looking at how long can you go on an electric vehicle, and for me, it's really about the charging infrastructure. You have to really, if you're taking a trip, if you're not in town, if you're taking a trip out of town, you've got to kind of map out, where am I going to go, where's the charging station, and I think that's what's going to take it when people start seeing that, hey, I can go to the grocery store and plug in my car while I'm in there, it'll take hold. So for me personally, I'm still a couple of years, I don't own an electric car, let me be honest about that, I don't, but I'm certain my next car is going to be an electric vehicle.
That's exactly where I'm at, too.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Never in any of those lectures do we hear about nuclear power plants, which are 98% efficient compared to renewable silicon and turbines that are only 30% efficient and need to be recycled and all that thing. Never hear a word about it. Not one person in the world died from a nuclear power plant.
Yeah, I'm sure the nuclear industry will be happy with your question there. I think if you want to go back, I don't know how many, what was it, 7, 8, maybe 9 years ago, just before there was that tsunami in Japan where they had the nuclear power plant, I think there was something like 40 new plants on the books in this country, small scale ones like they have in France. And don't quote me on that number, but there was a number of them that were on the books, and then that tsunami hit in Japan, and I mean, we were actually looking at some of those projects back then, and it kind of went away after that. I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole should we or shouldn't have nuclear power, but from an engineering standpoint, I totally agree with you. Yeah.
That caused it, not the power plant.
Right. No, I understand, but I'm saying that's what scared everybody, and we, everybody got nervous about it, and all those projects went away because there was a number.
Germany eliminated 40% of their nuclear power plant, and now they're short of electricity.
Yeah.
Literally, Germany is short of electricity. Yep. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Thank you for all the great questions, everyone. And to thank you for your time today, Vincent, we would like to offer you Historical Tales of Toledo. It is written by one of our former Rotarians, Clint Mock, and we also will be making a $25 donation to Post Polio Fund.
Well, great. Well, thank you again for having me here today.
All righty. And now, Past President Chuck Stocking is up.
Thank you, President Cindy. Are we on? Yeah, good. Well, I think one of the really bright ideas of Rotary is the logo, or the motto of service above self, and the other one is the annual themes that we have in Rotary, this one being Imagine Rotary. And so I think Cindy's asked to take a look at what imagination has Rotary expressed that really mounted to something, and there's a lot of it, but I'm going to talk about one of those. and that is the Dove Fund. And here's a little background about the Dove Fund for those of you who don't know about it. In 1999, May of 1999, Chuck Oswald, along with Rich Carr of the Maumee Rotary Club, traveled to Vietnam and were impressed with the endearing nature of the Vietnamese people, but also the dire economic, educational, and healthcare circumstances of the people, still suffering from Agent Orange and the lack of progress in meeting basic humanitarian needs. Sad picture. In August, just a couple months later, Chuck gave a presentation at Toledo Rotary about his trip and described so very effectively what he witnessed of the humanitarian needs. His message really resonated with a bunch of Vietnam veterans who were part of our club. Many of them came forward after his presentation and said, "Is there something that we could do that might change that? We all have a black hole in our heart because of the experience. It was a very tough situation." So the seed was planted. Then came a plea on November, just a couple more months later, from the U.S. ambassador to Vietnam himself, a 7.5-year prisoner of war in probably the Hanoi Hilton. His plea was that the war veterans might be able to provide some financial assistance to alleviate the situation in Vietnam. The timing could not have been better. So 2 months later, Toledo Rotarians and Maumee Rotarians held hands together and formed the Dove Fund. You may remember some of the Toledo Rotarians who were involved in that. Here are the names of them. Steve Boyce. Steve may be here today. Okay. Steve Boyce, John Wiley, Fred Grimm, Bob Mehring, Jeff McKisson, and myself. The Maumee Rotarians were Chuck Oswald, Do Nguyen, who himself was a refugee from Vietnam and subsequently district governor, Tom Schell, Tim Kearney, Dave Langendorfer, and Rich Carr. So the track record, so did it make any difference at all? The track record of the Dove Fund is impressive, really impressive. It has built over 55 schools and or daycare centers, several medical clinics, 5 water projects, medical missions, hundreds of educational scholarships, and even microfinance, 2 microfinance organizations, which is a real joy in a communist country. The priceless impact is phenomenal, but the organization has raised more than $3.5 million to do this work, all because somebody in the Rotary audience on that day in 1999 imagined that they could do something. And I would say that the really remarkable part of it, of the service above self, is the black hole in the hearts of those Vietnamese veterans has been totally filled with love and compassion, and almost all of them have been back to Vietnam and have established very strong ties with the people of Vietnam and the impact of it. So that's your Rotary moment for what Rotary can do in the world, service above self.
Thank you for sharing that, Chuck. And it goes along with some of the things that Vincent mentioned of all the good that Rotary does. And sometimes we either don't know about it, forget about it. So as you're thinking about that story, think about as we're moving forward, we're going to be relooking at our transformational projects coming up soon. And if you can, come up with some good ideas or plant a seed, like he said, that would be great for what we can all imagine doing in the future. On August 15th, I hope you all join us as we have James, I'm going to say his last name wrong, Kimsikis, here from Dana to let us know what all Dana is involved in. We have one meeting today after this meeting. It's a membership committee, and we'll be meeting in here. And lastly, I'd like to remind everyone about the Sandpiper Cruise on Saturday, August 13th. If you haven't purchased your tickets yet, you can. And just a reminder that we're only going to have dessert and drinks there, so make sure that you grab something for dinner before that. And with that, we are adjourned.